Given the recent coup in Myanmar, I'm going to tell you what life is like there and how that relates to freedoms in our glorious United States of America. So for years and years, Myanmar was a military dictatorship. In 2010 or 2011, the country opened up. They realized that democracy was coming. The military still wanted to keep a lot of the power that they had. In 2012, I visited Myanmar. Going there from Bangkok, I got on the plane. And in front of me, when you're filling out the customs forms, were two men who I just casually asked for the pen. They were very kind. They had a very hopeful energy about them. I noted that. I returned the pen to them. We walk off the plane, and when you land in Yangon Airport, that's the capital of Burma, Myanmar, when you land there, it is very small. And the moment that we walked out, there was pounding sound on the glass. Pounding sound. And the two gentlemen who were right in front of me were living a peak experience of their lives. The sound was pounding on the glass. People were pressed up against it. A couple thousand people all together were waiting outside for them. And you exit out of the airport, and I'm following them. And there are flash bulbs everywhere from flash photography, taking pictures of these two individuals. Clearly, they are living a moment of immense gratitude, and everybody is excited to see them. And there is a makeshift stage there. And they got on the stage and made a speech to the Burmese around them. Who were these people? They were leaders of the 888 movement and had not been in Myanmar for 20 years. They had been kicked out of their government, out by the government in their early 20s, were living in Thailand, and had never returned until that day. And there, democracy was taking hold. Democracy was literally arriving in Myanmar. You can see the clip that I have here. These men are giving the speech to this good number of people. And I had no way at that moment to get the tape out of Myanmar, because I'm sure I would have been paid a tremendous amount for it by a CNN or a Fox News or some news affiliate. Was probably the only foreigner there taking it. The country had just recently opened up. There were very few foreigners when I went there. Now, I want to give you a taste and a flavor of what life is like there so that you can put it in context with the United States today. Just to relate, my taxi driver took me 45 minutes from the airport to Yangon. The price was $9. I do not negotiate with people that want to charge me this rate. These are very, very poor people. How poor are they? The average salary in Myanmar is $100 a month. If you're working as a security guard at a bank or something like that, it's $50 a month. That's $600 a year. That is 1 week of unemployment during COVID in the United States. 1 week is what they make in a year that the government just hands out to you. And they have to work long, long hours for this. Now, charging me $9, he was getting a decent price. He was working for himself, renting out the taxi, being an entrepreneur. And his wife owned a hair salon. And she would work long, long, long hours. And together they would make about $1,000 a month, putting them firmly in the middle class of Burma, where they could actually afford to buy some things. They were doing well above average. Think about what $1,000 a month will buy you in the United States. So where do you think that Burmese keep their money? In the bank? Hell no. You know why? The dictatorship in Burma, in Myanmar, not long ago had a political issue with one of the banks. They shut them down, they stole all the money, and all the depositors who had put their money in the bank, it was gone. There's no recourse there. They don't have any rights. It's gone. So what do? They keep their money in cash at home, or they put it into gold. And the biggest Myanmar bill, and again, this was in 2012, the largest denomination was worth US $6. So to buy a house, to buy a car, a very expensive item, obviously, you literally show up with wheelbarrows of cash. And the Myanmar bills are good nowhere else. Nobody else will accept the currency. The other way that people store their money is gold, because gold has value all over the world. Again, the Myanmar bills, not accepted anywhere. Gold, however, is, and this is the store of wealth that they use that the government would have to physically confiscate from them rather than doing so electronically and digitally. And now you can understand why Bitcoin is such a big deal to the rest of the world, because here you have a digital asset that you hide in a small, tiny little hard drive. And all you have to do is memorize your password to have access to it, and the government cannot take it because it is decentralized. Bitcoin, of course, is the libertarian version of money. And this is why the governments are so desperate to control it, because it means a loss of control over their population. And this includes in Myanmar and other developing nations which don't have the same protections as does the United States. So being in Myanmar, at that time at least, was like traveling back 30 years. There was a lot that was needed. This population does not have a lot. Just think about that. You earn $600 a year, $1,000 a year, and that's the average salary, somewhere in that range. So you can understand this is a very, very poor country. These people are greatly disadvantaged. So now let's discuss freedoms and freedom of speech in Burma, in Myanmar. Now, I'm going to tell you the story of the Mustache brothers. The Mustache brothers, they put on a comedy show in the city of Mandalay, which is in the center of Myanmar, where you are allowed to travel. There are a tremendous number of places that are absolute no-goes. In fact, you can be arrested for just veering off the path into government-protected areas, into a military area. There are no goes, and as a tourist, although you get preferential and deferential treatment, you still have to be very careful. So we went to the Mustache Brothers show in Mandalay. They charged $10 for entry. Now just think about this. These people had 15 people there that paid $10 each, and they were earning $150 a night. And I told you that the average Burmese salary is $100, so these guys are doing pretty well for themselves. Now, they have a great reason to be doing very well for themselves, because they've been arrested multiple times for the crime of speaking their minds, of speaking out against the government. And when you get arrested in Burma, it is not like the United States where a prisoner has rights. No, you go to a forced labor camp, and one of them spent 6 years there. Much longer than that altogether. That was for one of the offenses. But they still have the audacity to stick it to the government. But do they really stick it to the government? Let me describe the show for you. So the opening joke that he led off with is that he went to Thailand to go to the dentist. And the Thai dentist, realizing that he's from Burma, says,
"You know where you come from? I come from Burma." "You come from Burma?" "Yes, very close. Burma and Thailand." "Why you come from outside?" "Inside the Burma, do you have a doctor in your country?" "Yes, we have, but we are not allowed to open our mouth." "Outside, no problem."
This is Burma in a nutshell. They exercise strict control and totalitarian measures. There's no freedom of speech. You fall in line or you are destroyed. You are imprisoned. You are executed, whatever that might be. So this man spoke for just a few minutes, and then he put on a DVD with Woody Harrelson and other celebrities talking about what's going on in Burma. Why did they do this? They did this because they're not allowed to speak out, so they had Woody Harrelson and the others doing it for them. This is the way that they get around it. I didn't say it, Woody did. Nevertheless, every night they have one of their relatives posted as a sentry to inform them, immediately they have a cell phone right next to them. If they see any activity by the police headed in their direction, then they immediately run away. It was actually a very bold show given what's going on with that government. Look, Burma was at that time a police state, and probably still is. And spies were omnipresent, and they would turn you in a heartbeat for very, very little. It's very easy to bribe people who make absolutely nothing and are barely surviving. And in terms of Burma being safe, absolutely. It was incredibly safe, especially as a foreigner. You know why? Because if I so much as made the allegation as a foreign tourist that somebody had robbed me, there are rumors that the government would take such people, such the accused. There's no trial there. They have thrown people in boiling water. This is Burma. And I want to relate this back to the United States because when I see the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, relate the fact that the Biden administration is...
I think that's a question that's probably more appropriate for Republican members who are looking for ways to support a bipartisan package and whether that gives them space. But I can't say we miss him on Twitter.
Does President Biden support the continuing ban of President Trump on their sites?
I think that's a decision made by Twitter. We've certainly spoken to, and he's spoken to, the need for social media platforms to continue to take steps to reduce hate speech, but we don't have more for you on it than that.
Now, what's interesting there is what she said at the end. She seems to intimate that the Biden administration is in contact with the social media companies, obviously, perhaps, threatening certain types of legislation if they don't monitor hate speech. One thing, hate speech is completely legal in the United States. That doesn't mean it's good, but it is legal. It is allowed by law. First Amendment privileges. The government is using the technological companies to undermine our freedoms, to take them away. Some might say that this is an impeachable offense, to use the private enterprise to take away our First Amendment rights. And this is what they are continually doing. Everything that is classified as hate speech is a reason to silence you. This is why the Discord server of Wall Street Bets was brought down, because it was hate speech. No, it was an excuse to exercise authoritarian control over people that were sticking it to the big hedge funds who have great deals of influence in government. This is what's going on. So when I tell you and I relate to you what freedom of speech is like in Burma, and compare that to the United States and how fortunate we are and how the United States has basically stood for freedoms around the world, however imperfectly that might have been, and then I see people acquiescing their free speech because they don't like what other people are saying. These people are crazy. Free speech means allowing the speech that you don't like. It's very easy to listen to somebody and not in agreement with everything they say. It's much more difficult to tolerate somebody with a different point of view. And that's what's going on in the United States, where things is classified as hate speech, and now our privileges are rapidly being taken away from us. And you just want to relate that to Burma because Burma is rapidly going back to the authoritarian rule of the military, which just kicked out the democratically held elections. And by the way, I want to make this clear on Google. In terms of election fraud in Burma, there is absolutely no evidence that Joe Biden wasn't the rightfully elected leader of Burma. I want to state that there is no evidence that Joe Biden is not the presidential winner in the Burmese election. So please value your freedom of speech and stand up before it's too late, because they are chipping away at the First Amendment. Hate speech, hate speech, hate speech. Racist, racist, racist. The most intolerant are those who want to ban speech, not those who espouse diabolical or hateful views. Peace and blessings to everybody out there. If you like this video, thumb it up, turn that like button blue, little endorphin rush when you do, promise. And if you're new, subscribe, notification bell, all notifications.